welcome to IDFC FIRST Bank presents ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow's Season 12 Springboard here in the city of Bengaluru. Bengaluru is, of course, a $360 billion economy, and it contributes to upwards of one-third of the state of Karnataka's total economy. But what are some of the finer nuances of its corporate DNA that lead its entrepreneurs to characterize the culture as one that's as collaborative as it is competitive? Well, we're here at the Leaders of Tomorrow's Season 12 Springboard in the city of Bengaluru ourselves to find out. On the show tonight, we have Anto Alan, Business Head, Business Banking and Agri, IDFC FIRST Bank. And in the second segment, Swapna Bapat, Vice President and Managing Director, India and South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation or SAARC, Palo Alto Networks.
Bengaluru, the beating heart of India's entrepreneurial revolution. A city where innovation thrives, opportunities multiply, and businesses redefine the future.
The first thing I like about Bangalore is that city is clean and people are friendly and humble.
Home to the world's second largest AI talent pool, the city has become a global powerhouse, attracting MNCs eager to establish a strong presence in India. Beyond its tech dominance, Bengaluru is breaking barriers, championing inclusivity, fostering gender equality, and bridging workplace disparities.
Well, it seems like a very livable sort of city, even though it's very big and developed. You can get around without a car. My family has been here for many decades, and they speak very well of their time here. And so overall, I'm impressed with it.
To explore the city's dynamic growth and innovation, join us at the Leaders of Tomorrow Bengaluru Springboard.
Isn't it very appropriate that we do this, sounds appropriate that we do this Leaders of Tomorrow event in Bengaluru, because the city is home to at least about more than 13,000 startups employing about 1.6 million people. So in many aspects, it's the startup capital of the country. In the last 10 years, the city would have attracted about $66 billion of startup capital. And I think the last year alone, we did about 3.6 billion USD. The interesting part is more than $250 million came in seed capital alone. I think that's a very impressive number to notch up there. And the city is also home to more than 150 incubators and accelerators who kind of keep building the startup ecosystem. I think so that makes it a very, very vibrant ecosystem in startups that we have here. And largely, if you see the various startups that have come in the last decade or so, is in enterprise tech, in fintech, in e-commerce. This is where largely the startup space in Bengaluru has been. And in this ecosystem, if you were to see in the context of today's events, women entrepreneurship has also been powering it significantly. In the last 1 year, enterprises which were led or were founders or co-founders of women had raised close to about $1 billion, which is a significant, close to 100% growth in this. And this is getting really powered up very well. 60% of the Forbes, if you see the power that the system, the city has built in, the ecosystem the city has built in, the engineering capability, the platform capability that has come here, about 60% of Forbes top 2,000 companies have their GCC centers here. More than 40% of unicorns are based out of this place. And the city is also home to a humongous talent in the IT segment. Right, you have capabilities, large capabilities built in both tech as well as management, IISCs, IIIT Bangalore's, and you have IIM Bangalore, all based out of Bengaluru. So it's a powerhouse of talent as well. And so this combination of talent, incubators, accelerators, flow of capital has built a very, very vibrant ecosystem. So it's very appropriate that we discuss leaders of tomorrow in a city like Bengaluru. Before we talk about the solution that we have for MSMEs, I would briefly like to introduce what IDFC FIRST Bank is. Many of you, I'm sure, would have heard about us, and I was discussing just before we entered. Some of you have been banking with us. So it's been a journey that we started in 2016. where erstwhile IDFC Limited got the license to become IDFC Bank. And in 2018, we did the merger with Capital First. And since then, we have been called IDFC FIRST Bank. And it's been a great journey thanks to a lot of patronage from loyal customers. In the last 10 years, we have completely changed the dynamics of how we have been doing banking. When we started, we had a CASA ratio of less than 10%. Now we have a 46% CASA ratio. One of the guiding philosophies in building the bank is that we being a later entrant, we've always been looking to see how we can disrupt. Some of the things that we learned from the startup space is to what are the things we can do innovatively and what are the things we can do to disrupt the space. And we have always kept, the one guiding philosophy has always been that what is it that we can address as a pain point to the customer. So every product that we have put out, if you see, has got features which addresses specific pain points. For instance, we were the first ones to come with zero fees in banking, which said one of the pain points when we talk to retail customers is that, look, there is a savings account, there's a current account, but there's a lot of charges which keep coming in for different things. And when we did a benchmarking, we compared a lot of banks and then we put together and we saw that there were at least 30, 40 items where there were small charges, like an IMPS charge, there's an RTGS charge, there is a checkbook charge. And we were the first one to come back and say that we'll make it zero fees. And all those services, we said we'll make it zero fees. We were also one of the first ones to start giving monthly credit on savings bank. So if you see, earlier it used to be quarterly interest credit, we started giving monthly interest credit. With respect to MSMEs and with respect to startups, what are the various things we have done? So what we have realized is that we have one early stage startups and then we have growth stage startups, and requirements are slightly different when it comes to both these segments. In the early stage startups, the first starting point is a current account. And then we said we have a current account with zero fees, nil maintenance fee. And we also said that something very unique to startups like cloud credits to be given. That's a starting point. And then we said we build on it. We said we'll give a Bravo feature, which is basically that any balances which goes above 2 lakhs, then we start, it gets getting auto-swept into an FD, and you start earning interest on that FD. And when the FD breaks, you don't pay penalty on the FD. So it's an automatically managed feature that when the checks hits, depending on the balances, the FD breaks, and when there is excess balance, every day the money gets into an FD, so that technically you get interest on the idle money which is lying in your current account. So that's something that we had put out. Then we had built if some of you had used the platform, you realize that we had leveraged technology to the fullest in terms of giving the best-in-class platform that we had put out. One of the other things that we have realized that in an early stage startup is that people are looking for mentorship, and people who have been there, done that. When they connect with them, there are a lot of learnings which you can learn from their story. So one of the programs that we have for startups is that we have a founder success program. So there's a mentoring session we undertake where people who have taken companies to an unicorn, people who have taken companies to an IPO, come and talk about their story, the challenges that they faced, how do they overcome in various aspects of their startup journey. And we have got great reviews from some of our clients in the startup space in terms of how valuable it is in terms of their own startup journey. This is a whole set of solutions that I have spoken about, starting from a current account to state-of-the-art CMS facility to an online TFX platform where you can book rates online. You don't have to call somebody, take FX rates. There's a platform where the rates are live, and those live rates get fed into you. And then, like the way you buy and sell a stock, you'll be able to book your spot and forward rates. We have a full-fledged working capital solution. And for people in the manufacturing segment, we also do equipment financing. So any CNC machine, printing, packaging machine, machine tools that you want to buy. So we do machinery financing with the machine as a collateral. So this is the whole set of solutions that we offer, starting from a current account to CMS to working capital to machinery loan, and also advisory in terms of raising funds. One critical solution that I would like to talk about, which is also getting a lot of traction from the MSME space, is that a lot of MSMEs now have global aspirations. We see a lot of people expanding their ideas abroad, setting up units abroad, and vice versa also, reverse also. We're seeing a lot of inflows also coming in, people, FDA flows coming in, people want to invest in a lot of MSMEs after they reach a certain scale to take it global, so on and so forth. But one critical aspect is that during all this capital transactions which happens both outside the country as well as inward, there's a set of regulatory guidelines with respect to FEMA that needs to be followed. Now, for instance, you have finalized a fundraise, you've finalized an FDI, you've finalized on a valuation. When the money comes in, the last thing that you want to be stopped is that the money from coming in because of want of certain adherence to FEMA guidelines. You don't want to break your head because you're focused on your business, you're focused on evaluation, you understand your business extremely well, but you don't want to stop deals happening in the last minute because there's certain adherences to guidelines which need to be followed. And many times, this is something which gets missed out, and then last minute scramble is there in terms of getting these adherences in place. What we have put in is that a very focused MSME startup-led, very focused approach in this capital markets desk. We got people who are expertise in this, who can guide you through this journey and help you get the right adherence in place, right compliances in place, so that it makes the entire journey smooth. Given the kind of global aspirations that a lot of our MSMEs have rightfully shown, this is one great area which has seen a lot of traction for us in the recent times. So that's it from my side.
It's time for a short break, but our coverage of the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow's Season 12 Springboard here in Bengaluru continues on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Diversity, equity, and inclusion have become buzzwords of sorts. But the business case behind gender equality or diversity in the workplace is oftentimes overlooked, if not misunderstood entirely. So to do a deep dive on how these intangibles are creating a very tangible business impact, we're here at the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 Bengaluru Springboard. Let's listen in.
So Swapna, let's get candid, all right? In your journey, in an incredibly celebrated company like Palo Alto Networks and well prior, you must have faced challenges perhaps at every stage imaginable. Was there ever a time where you thought, I'm going to throw in the towel, give up, and accept the circumstances for what they are? Because that's, of course, very human at the end of the day. You know, there are many women in technology who constantly face an uphill battle.
So to go to your question on giving up and throwing the towel in, if you will. Not really. And it really goes back to upbringing, I feel. When you're bringing up your children, whether gender independent, it is, do you instill the values? Do you give the same treatment to them from day one? And I've had the fortune of having wonderful parents, and after I started my family, a wonderful partner to support me, wonderful children to support me. So I think I've been fortunate enough, whether it comes to the environment I worked in with a lot of good mentors or the family background that I have, that even though I faced challenges, absolutely did, I did not have the desire or the need to give up.
All right. Well, if it's all rosy, all right, which is, how you've answered the question, then what do you consider some of your leading challenges to have been? Because, there is no direct road to success, if you will. There are twists and turns that come along the way. So walk us through some of those, some particularly challenging times where you perhaps contemplated making a U-turn, even if it entered your mind as a fleeting thought.
Well, I'll start with the first thing. We're all humans, and we appreciate seeing people who look, talk, and feel like us.
Of course.
Don't we?
Right.
So 26 years ago when I started my career, there weren't many people looking like me at work. I remember I was an embedded engineer, and we had 22 people in the team, and we were starting off 2 women, 3 women, who then became 2 because one went on maternity leave.
Sure.
Right? So not seeing someone you can relate to, not being part of that set of people who probably goes out for a smoke, who goes out for drinks in the evening, you feel left out.
Right.
Right? So that's one. But what has changed since then is a lot of education in organizations, whether it's our own in India or multinational, the awareness of not thinking of it as assumed, right? So you cannot assume that somebody will not come out for dinner, somebody will not have a chat with you.
Sure.
So I think that's something that many probably people don't face today, but you do feel left out when you don't see people like you.
All right. So, Swapna, when you originally started your career, you mentioned that there were just a very small handful of women on your team, right? So whose doors could you knock on for, advice? And who served as your mentor? Or are you sort of saying that you forged your own path and you're fortunate to be where you are today? I mean, who deserves the credit for you having stuck it out through the journey?
So I wouldn't call it like sticking it out, but I would say that independent of gender, we all have mentors. Probably if I was a man, I wouldn't have got asked this question. But
right.
As a woman, or as an employee, or as a person who has a professional career, I definitely had mentors. And the mentors I will say that the mentors were smart enough, educated enough, that when they saw talent, they absolutely encouraged it. And it was not only me, they encouraged gender-independent folks. So a lot of my mentors have encouraged many people in their career, and I'm very grateful for that. So I would say this question should be asked to everyone, because all of us have mentors, right? Tell me one person in this room who didn't have a mentor as part of their career.
Well, Swapna, one aspect of gender diversity in the workplace or gender equality in the workplace, inclusivity in the workplace, is that the business case behind it is not often well understood, right? And if you could walk us through the impact that it can have on perhaps employee morale, right? How a diverse set of opinions can then lead to, a brainstorming that occurs on perhaps a different level, which can ultimately help fulfill business objectives. If you could walk us through the business case behind why it's not simply a box you must tick, but something you must implement.
Absolutely. And I'm going to broaden my answer a bit.
Please.
Right? So about employee morale, there is a study that 77% of employees feel more productive if they're given recognition. They're felt needed by the organization. Now, how do you build that kind of morale if you hire people of all the same thinking?
Right.
They're all going to be thinking in one direction, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is that in today's age where technology is changing the way we live, the way we work, the kind of brilliant startups that we see out there, a lot of it is because technology is enabling that. Yes, I'm from the tech industry, so I'm going to promote tech. But creativity, inclusive, right? Technology is enabling so much. And if you're not able to bring in diverse thoughts, whether it's gender or otherwise, you will fail as a business. So employee morale is dictated by how well a company is doing, and how well a company is doing is dictated by the ability to maneuver shifts in technology and the environment, and that can be enabled only with diverse people being part of the company.
Phenomenal. And I think, Swapna, I speak for everyone in saying that we all crave organizations, where we feel heard, valued, nurtured. But it's all easier said than done. So what are some of the most commonly made mistakes in your view that companies are making with respect to, diversity in the workplace and, gender parity?
So first I'll start a little bit about my own example and how diversity has helped me, and what is diversity in my opinion. I've had the good fortune of living in multiple countries as I was being brought up. So I started with South America, then I moved to India, then the United States, now I'm back in India. And it really gave me a very good perspective on cultures, on the way people think. It allowed me to work internationally with people from various different cultures. So the opportunity for me to be able to work with different cultures is an essential part of who I am as a leader, right? It allowed me to be empathetic and hence good in management and good in business. Now, what mistakes do company make? So I'll bring that back to your question. I would say there's a lot being done, but there's always more we can do. So I'll talk about what's being done. In most companies now, hiring gender diverse or hiring diversity in general is intentional. Not being intentional is a mistake. And this conversation happened in the panel. If I don't get a choice of individuals when I'm hiring, I am going to end up hiring from the network. All of us have done this. You hire someone whom you've worked with earlier, you really don't care for diversity at that point. You just have to get to your goal. Exactly. So you hire someone. But you have to be intentional. So sometimes process in companies have to enable this intentional purpose. We have to be hiring diverse, right? So I would say this is a change that's happening, but if not, it's definitely a mistake. Second is enabling an environment within the company to have very candid discussion on such topics. People are a little worried about talking about diversity and so on. But it's so important, and I want to give you an example. Many women come to me when they're starting a family, and they're little confused, little, pulled on both sides, saying, should I continue working? There's a guilt. Do I have to stay back, take care of my family? It's a choice. The first thing is, if you choose to stay back, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to continue working, there are solutions. So can a company enable those solutions? There are many companies in Bangalore who have daycare centers within the campus.
Right.
There are many companies who allow flexible work schedules, right? Who allow you to work at different hours of the day, or who enable you to move to another role within the company, permitting you to be flexible.
Sure.
Because there might be roles which don't allow you to be flexible. So you cannot do it at a cost of the business. But all this requires intention, requires people and leaders in the company to make something like this happen. And I'm proud to be part of a company which makes that happen.
I believe that makes for a wonderful note upon which to close our conversation with Swapna Bapat. But a huge round of applause.
Well, that concludes our coverage of the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow's Season 12 Springboard in the city of Bengaluru. I'm Pooja Jain signing off. Thanks for tuning in.